Here's a more natural flowing version of that section that reads like a legislative speech rather than a series of short points. One of the dangers associated with creating advocacy offices is that citizens often develop expectations that exceed the powers actually granted to those offices. Here's a more natural flowing version of that section that reads like a legislative speech rather than a series of short points. Madam Speaker, one of my concerns with this legislation is the potential gap between what New Brunswickers may reasonably expect this office to accomplish.
For the life of me, I can't understand why a lot of people are taking a dump on the Canadian politician who mistakenly read an AI prompt, right, during some kind of a legislative speech or whatever he was talking about. And everybody's had a field day from, about this topic, and everybody's taking a dump on it. Some people will say, oh, well, they're trying to shame him basically for it. I have a different stance on it. And there are a couple of things a couple of positions that I take as far as that happening. Now, we live in an AI world, first of all. We're all using AIs. From the student to the professors, even at Ivy League colleges, to your CEO. Hell, they're even advocating for you to use more AI. There's a reason why token maxing is the thing right now, because CEOs are pushing for companies, for their employees to really use AI. NVIDIA has done it. Microsoft has done it. Now, some of them have kind of pulled back or reneged a little bit as far as that, but it's a thing now. Everybody's doing it. Even consulting firms. We all know about the show that the stuff that happened in Canada, as far as, I think McKinsey had to, do some kind of reimbursement because they use AI to do some kind of research. I think it has to do with the Canadian government or something like that. And we also heard the story of, in Australia, where McKinsey still has to return like $400 something thousand or whatever the case might be. Now, a couple of things, like I mentioned, right? We're all using it now. And what is this guy? This guy's what? In his 70s, right? Maybe late 70s, mid to late 70s. I mean, from my guess, I don't know his age. I couldn't find his right age online, but I would guess somewhere around mid 70s. The guy uses AI, so what? Hell, didn't we have the president of the U.S. at one point was reading the teleprompter, and even the part where it says pause, he read the pause as well. So I don't see it as a big issue. Now, here's three things, a couple of things that for me was a bigger deal. A couple of things that for me, maybe not a big deal, but I think it's worth pointing out. I don't have a problem with him reading the prompt. Now, I would say that he should have at least reviewed it, right? And maybe the guy's tired. I kind of looked it up a little bit. Looks like he's been in government forever. So I'm sure he's probably just gliding through a bunch of stuff right now. So he's been there, done that so many times. So he figured, hey, I can use AI to do this. Now, my question is, does he have a speech writer? Does he have somebody who proofreads his stuff? Maybe not. Because if somebody proofreads his stuff and they didn't catch that, it looks like he didn't have that. Even though I think he came out later and said that he didn't kind of read it through before he actually talked about it. But okay, it happens. We all do it. I mean, I've been in corporate America long enough where you see sometimes an email that people reply to you. Hell, even LinkedIn, go on LinkedIn and see some of the comments. You can tell AI wrote these comments. Some of the posts, you can even tell AI wrote some of those posts. So what's the difference between reading the prompt and actually, reciting some prompt that you had in place, right? I'm not a fan of it. I don't know why they're beating him up on that. It's an honest mistake. It's an oversight. Now, I'll say this though. The beautiful thing about it, a couple of things that I'm going to look at it from an AI perspective, from a kind of a AI leadership perspective or governance lens is, number one is the ownership part. I talk a lot about, for anybody who's kind of watches my content on LinkedIn reads my content on LinkedIn and listen to me a little bit. I talk a lot about ownership. Like if the AI hallucinates or the AI makes a mistake, who owns it? right? And I think there was a case of ownership here, lack of ownership. Now, ownership, I can look at it from a couple of different ways. Ownership in terms of, well, he owned the mistake and he owned the fact that that was an oversight from his part. He did not really go and review that. But also ownership from in terms of, I wouldn't even look at it as an AI making a mistake because it was just a prompt that he read. So we're just going to focus on the ownership part, that he owned it. He owned the mistake, because in this case, there's always who owns a mistake. So he owned it at this point. So which is good. I think he beats that part. To me, just owning it alone, it's maybe that's better than 99% of CEOs and executives in companies today, because a lot of them don't try to own anything. Anything that goes wrong, they don't, including their AI. When their AI mess up, hey, we heard the case of the Canadian that happened, 2023, I believe. The guy who the Canadian airline tried to trick into not paying him his bereavement fare because the AI chatbot told him that he would get some kind of, bereavement discount or whatever the case might be. And when it was time to claim it, they said, well, the AI is a separate entity from the company, so he's not entitled to any compensation. That is extreme lack of ownership from the company itself, but he owned it. So from an ownership standpoint, I give him an A, because to me, that was phenomenal. And he did not let that sit out for so long. He came out and owned it, moved on. To me, kudos to him. He gets an A for me in that regard. So for the bunch of you who are trying to beat the man up because he read a prompt, are you serious? I bet a bunch of those people, you go look at whatever content they're creating, it is so unoriginal, it is so AI generated, it is so vague. I mean, I see a lot of those on a daily basis. And these are like young people who are supposed to take their time to at least proofread or be creative, come up with something creative. And you're going to pick on a 70-year-old man and criticize him for reading a prompt. We all use AI is doing our jobs today. I use it too. Hell, I'm not going to act like I don't use it. I use it. I use it for inspiration, for creative ideas. Sometimes I use it to create my drafts. And then I go through it, look at it and clean it up however I see fit, and then inject my personal experience around those things and go with it. But they should leave that man alone. Like, seriously, we all use it. You use it. Your CEO uses it. Your grandma uses it. Your doctor uses it. I mean, your doctor uses it to give you your own diagnosis and prognosis. Get over it. I mean, just leave that old man alone.